Hey guys, Flavio here. I'm going to give you a quick review on the new Star Wars The Force Awakens movie. If you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and pause this video because there will be spoilers, and then go watch it, come back, unpause, watch it, leave comments below. Love to hear what you thought of the film as well. I'm going to start with the cast. It was extremely refreshing to see the old characters kind of come back to life and really pick up where they left off. And let me just say that holding true to something like that over such a long period of time, it's very difficult. But, you know, for example, Harrison Ford, who's in his 70s, running around shooting blasters, and like he's back in his 20s. I heard stories of him, you know, breaking his foot on the set while shooting the film. You know, considering everything that we see on the screen that he's done, that's the least of what could have happened to him. I mean, great job to him. And Leia, well, Leia is Leia, right? We see Leia on the screen, and besides her kind of title changing from Princess Leia to General Leia, I mean, that's probably the biggest change we've seen in her so far, besides the fact that her and Han both had a child, one that we know of, right? Chewie definitely became funnier and more lovable as with age. C-3PO still has very little self-awareness, you know, that comic relief. R2-D2, though his screen time was very small, played a major role towards the end. And as always, he's the trusted and loyal friend who seems to always have the key to the secret missions, right? Luke, all we know is that he has a beard and exiled himself, kind of what Yoda did. So that's as far as we know with Luke. And then Stormtroopers, they die left and right? Nothing's really much changed there. One extremely happy thing that I'm happy with is that they chose a new casting talent for the next generation of the Star Wars team. If we're talking about the next generation members in the story, it's only fitting and very appropriate that the next generation of actors assume the roles. It's not actors that we've seen in so many films, but fresh new faces. Starting off with Poe, he was an X-Wing pilot for the New Rebellion, and he is the best in the fleet. I mean, we see some things that he does in his little X-Wing black fighter, and he's doing these flips and, you know, barrel rolls and shooting things and blowing up. It's phenomenal. You know, he's really holding true to that classic pilot that we've seen in the original series, in the original films. Then we've got Finn, who we learn is a stormtrooper who defects to the rebellion. Well, sort of. He kind of gets pushed by force. He gets pushed by force and kind of finds his way into a role within the overall picture. Yeah, and then which for me, I kind of really enjoyed that, because for years we see the stormtroopers being sent to their deaths, and you know, we know them as the clones. Through that, we have a connection with them as an overall character, the stormtrooper in the films. But now we finally get a bit more personal. You know, we get a little bit deeper with who the new stormtrooper generations are, and we see that through Finn. And it's really impressive how we can now connect a little bit more on a deeper level and sympathize a bit more with the stormtroopers that they actually have names, right? So we assume they have names. At least he does. He's given one. Last person I want to talk about is Rey, who we learn is an orphan girl on the planet Jakku, who meets a stormtrooper friend and BB-8, finds the Millennium Falcon, and then meets up with Han Solo and Chewie a little later, all within minutes. Really impressive. There is Kylo Ren that I also want to talk about, and we learn that he's actually the son of Han and Leia, who was training with Luke because he is his nephew and has the Force in him, who's also the grandson of Darth Vader. So he's got this entire family tree kind of thing going on, and he apparently ends up going to the dark side, wanting to pick up where his grandfather left off, Darth Vader. And he is now the new Sith in training for the new group of evildoers known as the New Order. There is BB-8 that I will talk very briefly about, but I'll just talk about him right now. He's basically the new and younger type version of an R2-D2. The end. He's pretty much assuming that secret mission type role now. So the plot is a little hard to believe. I'm still kind of clinging to the classics here. It made me feel like I was having deja vu. So for 30 years later, the dark side is still up to its no good, trying to take over the galaxy a bit. But and the weapon of choice, you won't believe it, is just a larger version of the Death Star. which is capable of destroying multiple planets instead of just one. Its weakness, not far off from what the original weakness was of the Death Star, which is this really small corridor that you have to kind of go through, and instead of just shooting a missile that'll destroy these core reactors, you're gonna have to fly in and destroy it from within and then come out. So, you know, it's very similar weapon, similar way to kind of overcome it. And then once that's destroyed, that's the end of the big plot of the movie now. But there is a lot more kind of going on the side that leads you to the next, you know, sequels, which for me was at least worth it. Because if that really was the only plot and nothing else was kind of happening, I would have thought the movie really dragged on for just that, especially since we've seen it, you know, been there, done that. And when you're going to do something like Star Wars, I mean, we're really hoping that the Sith would learn, right? They wouldn't just keep repeating themselves over the same mistakes, and that's just insanity, literally. But, you know, here we are. So battle scenes were great. We had some new weapons introduced for both sides of the teams here, but it seems like no matter how much stronger the weapons get for the stormtroopers, no one's really investing in their training, their fighting abilities. I mean, I was waiting for some sort of joke to come out of Finn regarding how bad the troopers fight, especially since he defected and now he's fighting against his own kind. But nothing. Especially, you know, the other thing is that Finn was a janitor. You know, he was in the custodial arts. That was his job in the New Order. Now, if you got a guy like that versus pretty much anybody else in war, he's not going to do that well. But the moment he takes off that suit and kind of joins the rebellion, his level of experience just like jumps. He's taken on not only stormtroopers and the generals within those ranks, but now he's also taken on even a Sith leader. So, or I don't know if he's he's probably not a leader. He's just Sith in training. We'll just say Sith in training. I mean, he's wielding a lightsaber for the first time and doing much better than most Jedis do when they pick it up for the first time. I mean, I don't know if it's just the outfit of the stormtrooper that kind of weighs them down and makes them suck so much, but there was definitely something that happened or something that kind of went off when he defected over. Let's talk about Rey. Rey has the ability to use the Force. Wow. Okay. So even without any training or any knowledge of the Force, we're led to believe with some major scenes where she uses like Jedi mind tricks. She battles Kylo Ren with the Force and even beats him at it. I mean, this is a guy who's been training. He trained with Luke. He's training with like the Overlord, and he still loses. I don't know if he just sucks or if she's just the bomb. I don't know. But even by with wielding Luke's old lightsaber, we kind of see her kind of have some visions of maybe things that have happened or things that will happen. Some people are believing that maybe she is a sibling to Kylo, and that's why she has so much power. Maybe she was there with Kylo, training with Luke, and the same way that when Anakin was led to the dark side, was led to go kill younglings, Kylo was led to the dark side and was told to go kill his sister, and instead maybe Luke exiled her to Jakku, or I don't know. He exiled himself and she was super young, so she doesn't remember. Maybe he used the Force to wipe her memory. So many possibilities at this point, but maybe it's her subconscious kind of pulling that information back, and she's able to kind of use the Force the way she's using it. But we do see some interaction with her and Kylo Ren, and we see that there is some sort of bond there. I mean, the guy throws temper tantrums every time someone mentions her. So there's definitely some sort of connection there, whether it's a cousin or a sister, we'll find out later. And again, I digress, right? But this is kind of like Ren's story that we're kind of getting into, and we're kind of discovering who she is at the same time she is, because she doesn't remember much as well. So the last thing I want to probably mention is Kylo himself. It doesn't seem like he's getting a lot of mention, but considering that he ties everyone together and he kills his father, in other words, Han Solo, it's a pretty big deal. In my opinion, when it comes to movies, if you don't see the body, they're probably not dead yet. So we see Han Solo get impaled in the sword and his little medieval lightsaber, and then he kind of like topples over the top, falls down, and that's all we see of him. So I wouldn't consider him completely out of the picture yet, especially since he's already cast for the new movie. Could he come back as a Vision? Is that why he's cast in the movie? Did he take the same form of that immortality that the other Jedis take? Is he still alive? I mean, so many possibilities that we can be, throw out, but I don't think he's dead yet. I think he's actually still in the game here. Yeah. So, but we see that, and that's really big with Kylo. You see that he's really bad at fighting. I mean, he almost loses twice in a lightsaber fight. He's got like this really cool looking lightsaber that no one else has or has had that we know of, and he's fighting, Ren, and loses to her, and she's never wielded a lightsaber until that moment. And then he fights. Before that, he fought what's his face? A Finn stormtrooper wielding a lightsaber, and almost loses to Finn. And that leads me to believe Finn knows how to use a lightsaber. Is it because he is also a Jedi? Mace Windu, maybe? I don't know. But we'll learn more about that a little later on. It's just, but to me, for a guy who's a Sith in training, you would think that he would have a lot more control, a lot more, just tact when it comes to fighting and kind of getting involved. But he's very emotionally compromised, which you can kind of like sympathize with because he's got this huge family history, and he's trying to make people like his grandfather proud, but he's already disappointing his immediate family. He's killing his father. He's trying to, kind of just cut off all emotional ties. But in the process, you go through an emotional roller coaster. So maybe all of that has to do with it. Overall, Star Wars without Jar Jar, I give it a 7 out of 10 automatically. However, considering all these great things that are kind of happening, all these puzzle pieces that are starting to mesh. The way that they kind of left it off with a cliffhanger where she finally finds Luke and she's there, and you're assuming, yes, she's going to begin training and they're going to rise up a new generation of Jedi fighters. Yes! And it kind of leaves you in this anticipation for the second and third. That bumps it up to an 8. And the other thing is that, a lot of the cinematography, a lot of the visual effects, the cast was just amazing group of actors. I mean, that already bumps it up to a 9 because it keeps you engaged, despite that the plot may be similar to other things you've seen in the past. It is still amazing to watch. I mean, that bumps it up to a 9 out of 10. The only reason why I don't give it a 10 out of 10 is because the plot is the same. Death Star times 10. It's a planet that destroys a bunch of planets at the same time, and it's got this amazing power, and it just goes down the same way the other one did. So, I mean, that's the only thing that makes me keep it at a 9 instead of putting it at a 10. But hey, leave your comments below. I'd love to hear your opinion, what you think matters to me, so let me hear it. And hopefully one of us, says something that we haven't thought of yet, and we can kind of speculate on that as well. Well, take care and have a great day.